Hello and welcome to Dean's N-Scale Trains, my YouTube channel where I talk about everything N-Scale, from layout design to building benchwork and laying track, to all aspects of scenery, to structure construction using modern 3D printing, and also electronic control systems. But now I want to talk about my latest L-shaped N-Scale plan that I showed you in my last video. Today I'm going to make a good plan even better, so stand by for much more information on my next layout, the Santa Fe Northern Railroad, and stick around to the end where I show you some interesting train simulations using SCARM software. So here's what I'm going to do today. First of all, I'm going to name the railroad, give it a location, and develop its history. Then I'll make a few changes to the layout plan, which really improves it. Finally, I'll show you several examples of running trains on the layout using SCARM and its Model Train Simulator add-on. Here is a very crude map of the Denver and Rio Grande Railroad as it was built in New Mexico in the 1870s. Originally, the Denver and Rio Grande came down from Alamosa, ending at Antonito. From there, it kept going over what is now the Cumbres and Toltec tourist line, goes to Chama. After that, they built what was called the Chile line, which follows closely Highway 285 to Tres Piedras. At Tres Piedras, you can still see an old water tower, an old original water tower. It kept on going over the mesa, and near what is now Embudo, dropped over a very sharp grade down to the level of the Rio Grande. At Embudo, you can still see the remains of a old turntable pit, as well as another water tower. From Embudo, it followed the Rio Grande River, unfortunately not shown on this map, passed through Espanola, and near this point crossed over the river and then went back up, eventually reaching Santa Fe. The line crossed the river at a point that is now known as Ottawa Crossing. The line was torn up in about 1942. It was abandoned and torn up in 1942. So those are the historical facts on the Chile line. Now let's move into my fictional railroad, which I have named the Santa Fe Northern Railroad. What I showed you before was true historical fact. Now I'm going to show you a little bit of fiction. An imaginary railroad, the Santa Fe Northern Railroad, that I'm building. It starts in Santa Fe, follows the Chile line position, crossing at Ottawa, but instead of traveling north, it goes up into the mountains of the Santa Fe National Forest to the mine and the rich National Forest area. So the products hauled by the Santa Fe Northern are primarily coal and lumber. Now there's precedence for coal in New Mexico. Over a place called Madrid had a huge mine that mined coal for the Santa Fe Railroad. It's now a ghost town. However, it's highly unlikely that there would be coal in this area of the Santa Fe National Forest, but let's just pretend that there is. At this point of planning, it's relatively easy to make some changes, so let's do that. One of the modes that this railroad can be operated with is two lines. We have in the yellow, the lower line, and in the green, the mountain line. Let me show you how that works. The engine takes the left-hand set of crossovers. It continues on around. Now let's say it's on the yellow line. It comes around, takes this set of crossovers, but not this one. And it continues on the yellow line. What you notice is this set of tracks here which is somewhat confusing because of the colors, but it's basically red, is used by both lines. So one of the fun ways of running this is to have two trains, one on each line, going in opposite directions, and continually work these switches back and forth. But one of my subscribers made a suggestion. They said, the trouble with this setup, with this marshalling yard here, is when you're switching it, you continually follow the main line, because the switcher has to come into here. He suggested another switch here and a line going here so that the engine could use that and not follow the line. Well, I decided not to do that. I decided to do it a more simple way. And that is, let's just switch the directions of these two. Now the colors are a little bit different. The lower line here is green and yellow. The upper line is blue and orange. But you see I've switched the directions of these two switches. So now this part of this line is continually used as in the two-track mode, in the two-circle mode. And that allows the marshalling yard engine to use this much of the main, which is probably enough. So that was change number one. Another point made by someone was, this is a long distance back here to work. Let me just show you what that distance is. Get the measuring tape out. And to get back and work on those tracks is a little over 40 inches, which is pretty hard. I think it would be possible to pick up any derailed cars from here. But to work on this, what I would plan to do is the whole layout would be on wheels. I'd wheel it away from this wall and work on the scenery in this area, lay the track and work on the scenery, and then normal operation, push it back. I think that would work. Another thing I was not happy with is this industrial track. To switch this means moving back and forth in the marshalling yard, which would be very difficult. So what I'm going to do is, first off, delete this line. Delete this track. Select that area. And then if you select things and hold down the control, you can move them. So I'm going to put it over here. Probably I'll have to swing this around a little bit more, but that leads to much better operations. So let me continue and fill up that gap. And fill up this gap. I'm just using sectional track. In actuality, I would use the flexible track. One of the other suggestions from one of my subscribers was absolutely brilliant. For that, I'm going to go into 3D viewer mode. In my plans, I made everything except the mountain line on level, at 0. And then it rose to the mine on this side, and it rose on the mine on this side. He suggested make this area here, this set of tracks, 0. Then make this area, the city area and the yard area and all of the accompanying tracks, put that at 1 inch. and then put the mine at 2 inches. That gives you a 2-inch clearance here. But the percentages of the raising and lowering tracks are halved from my setup. And it also gives her a little bit more interesting scenery things. So I have incorporated that in my final design. So here's a couple of demonstrations using the model train simulator add-on to SCARM. Here's a quick demonstration of one train running the 2 loops. So here's a simulation of an actual coal train run. We start with an engine and 5 gondolas at the Santa Fe station. It starts up. Passes Ottawa Crossing, enters a tunnel, and starts climbing into the mountains. Passes through Santa Fe, which we pretend is not there. And then starts climbing the mountains. Eventually getting to the mine. And here's where it gets really, really fun, running 2 trains. As you can see, the operator has to be really on his toes. So that's it for this plan and this video. If you like the video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, Dean's N-Scale Trains. And thanks a lot for watching. I really appreciate it.